Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is John McLean, and I'm a digital marketing executive at Truck Science. We're hosting this webinar in conjunction with NTEA, and I extend a special welcome to all members joining us this morning. We partnered with NTEA in 2019, and this partnership gives members access to our axle weight calculator at reduced rates. So optimizing payload is a crucial step in any commercial vehicle operation, whether it's the design, manufacturing, or operational domain. This webinar will cover some of the principles and techniques involved in the process and aim to answer your questions about why, when, and how to apply them. It includes a live demo using Class 3 and Class 8 vehicles. So let's get started. Today, we'll be using 3 real-life examples to illustrate ways to optimize payload. First, we're going to use a Ford F-350 with a service body and a center axle drawbar trailer carrying machinery and equipment. Next, we'll use a Kenworth T370 with refrigerated van body carrying palletized freight in a multi-drop operation. And lastly, we'll use the Kenworth T370 again, but this time with a tanker body carrying diesel and gasoline. So I'll just flip over to the Truck Science app to dive deeper into these examples. Okay, so as I mentioned there, firstly, we're going to design a service truck operating in California. So I'm going to set up the regulations we want to validate against. So if I go to my settings wheel here, and go to regulations applied, I'll just clear what's originally there. I can search for California, state and interstate roads. So we can also see there that we've got all 50 states are catered for at an interstate level, and so far 18 states are catered for at a state road level. And we're constantly adding new ones on request. We currently have the Canadian regulations, or the Canadian provinces as well, also here. So the Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba, Alberta, and British Columbia, and more are going to be added shortly as well. So you're also able to add your favorite measurements. So I'm going to go ahead and do that too. So these will appear on your dashboard of your drawing. So I'm going to go for this one here because I will be adding a trailer tongue weight as a percentage of trailer weight. And I'll also add the gross weight on the vehicle front as a percentage. So we can also define ranges for particular attributes that our organization is comfortable with. So I've already got it selected there actually, so there are multiple ones you can choose from. But since we do have a trailer on this build, tongue weight as a percentage of trailer weight, I'll put it in between 10% and 20%. So if it falls outside these zones, would be flagged in the app. So we'll just go ahead and save those. And now we'll choose our vehicle. So we'll go for that Ford Super Duty F-350. So it'll be 4x2. And I'll just, to save me typing, I'll just take it from my notes here. So you can search by keyword. So it'll be a Ford F-350, and I'll go for this one with a 60-inch CA. Okay, now that our vehicle, so you'll notice that the front and rear chassis weights of the default spec have been pre-populated with the basic weight distribution table for the chassis along with other relevant dimensions. So I'll just give a brief overview of the app if anyone is new here. So all the information we see here, the drawing, dimensions, chassis weights, axle ratings, etc., have been sourced from the Ford Bodybuilder portal. We have a data team who are constantly adding and updating vehicle specs in this library. So just a few more pointers here. So on the left-hand side, we're able to add our body, add our vehicle, our body, our equipment here, and our payload. Down here, we have the dashboard to verify compliance with the manufacturer's ratings, regulation limits, and our own organization's internal standards. We have our weights table here as well to see a detailed weight distribution and compliance information and to determine maximum achievable payload. This vehicle's payload is currently 0, as you can see there, but that's normal as there's no body yet on the vehicle. On the right-hand side here, we can switch views and examine outputs. And along the top, we can print, save, and share calculations and define our preferences for using the program, as I just showed there actually in the settings wheel. So let's go ahead and add a body to this now. So if I go over here to my left-hand side again, to vehicle body, I'll add a service body, and I'll go for a napoid. And again, I'll just copy and paste from my notes. So I typed in there napoid 60-inch CA steel body. I'll go for the first one. And see, it's populated there in the drawing, and it's also populated on the weights table there with the different weights and how it's distributed over the front and rear axle. So just drag it a little bit back there from the cab, say about 3 inches. If I wanted a custom design for a body, I could have gone with a service body template. This would give me free reins over the weights and dimensions. So when I click into this napoid steel body, because it's a standard body, we aren't able to manipulate these dimensions. But as I say, if you wanted a template body, you could manipulate all those. And if I was a body manufacturer, I could also import one of my own DXF drawings to get a nice realistic drawing on the back there. So I'll also add here a lift more crane. So I go over to equipment to add my crane. And I'll go to crane, and I'll go for a lift more. And this one here. So I'll see how it's populated the crane there in an awkward position, but I'll pop it up. And as I move it here, move it onto the top of this body, just keep an eye on that weights table and see how the distribution of weight is changing over the front and rear axles. Just pop that there. Okay, so now my build is more or less completed, but let's say for argument's sake that we have a diesel engine that needs to be collected from a building site and brought to the workshop for repairs. So I can do that. I can add my, as payload over here, I can add my diesel engine. I'll go down to detail payload. I'll type in diesel engine. So you can see there, the payload there is 2650, and it's reflected in our weights table as well. So if I just grab that and say drag it a little bit to the left, you can see we are overloaded now in our front axle and our manufacturer's limits. But if I just bring it back there and have a look at the weights table down here, we can see that we're nearly fully utilized on the front axle, and we're only at about 68% on the rear axle. So this means that we can drag this engine back a little bit. So if I drag it more over the rear axle here, you can see those start to change. And now we've got a more even spread. So we're at 79 there and 77. So this seems like I'll just drag it back a little bit more. Okay, so let's add a trailer now. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to go back to equipment and add a hitch. So I'll go for a sample tow hitch. And I'll just drag that down a little bit. And if I go to trailer on the left-hand side, I can go to center axle drawbar trailer. And I've got one here. I clicked this trailer together earlier using the trailer template feature where all weights and dimensions are configurable. But to save time here now, I won't build it from scratch. Okay, so note that the trailer has flagged here an issue on our organizational standards. So we had earlier there a tongue weight as a percentage of trailer weight, but that's to be expected now as there is actually no payload on the trailer. But I can add payload to the trailer now actually. So I'll put a bobcat on that trailer. So I'll go over here to sample payload with detailed payload. And I'll search here for bobcat. Again, okay, now. So now that we can see that we're overloaded, both in it's flagged an issue in our organizational standards and our manufacturer's limits, and we can see we're overloaded there on our rear axle. So in our organizational standards, if we click in there, we see the tongue weight or percentage of trailer weight, we're outside those zones. And you can see there it's 26%. So we had 10 to 20%. So it's definitely outside those zones. And also we're overloaded on our rear axle there. Our utilization score was 101.3%. So a quick way to fix that will be to drag it back. And we can see there we've gone green on all our different limits of compliance and standards there, and also we're okay on all of our axles. So once you're happy with your build and how everything looks there, you can go up to the top here and go to generate a PDF report. And I'll actually show you something new that we've recently added in our PDF reports. So you can see here that we've got multiple views now. So we've got one view there, which is our weights and dimensions, center of gravity, and our bridge view there. So in our settings icon, you can go back there and you can change these by going to reports, going to views included and selected views, and you can pick whatever different views you'd like to have included in your reports there, or indeed remove any that you don't want to have. But this gives a really nice overview of the drawing and a detailed breakdown that you can share with your customer. So I'll just show that here. If you can put in, please load the Bobcat as per the load plan. Let's apply those changes. So this PDF report will also show where to load the diesel engine and the Bobcat on the trailer, and the center of gravity. I'll just show you there the center of gravity of all the different components, and also where to load the Bobcat, the diesel engine. And let's see, we got our notes and warnings are there as well, and we've got our additional notes that have populated in the bottom there. So please load the Bobcat as per our load plan. Okay, so sorry now if I went a little bit quick there, but I'll just double check with Jens if there's any questions that I can address.
Hi, John. There aren't any open questions. There was a question just from a customer in Canada wanting to know about displaying dimensions in imperial and weights in metric. And unfortunately, at the moment, the workaround is just to toggle them, as John is showing there on the settings dialog. But we have heard that feedback, and it will. But unfortunately, we can't give a timeline for when it will be implemented.
Okay, that's perfect. And there's no other questions?
Another question has just come through there now. The question is, does the program have the ability to develop custom dimensions and custom upfits? And the answer to that is most definitely. I suppose John will work through two more examples here that may start getting a bit more complicated, but we'd also be more than happy to arrange a personalized demo to see whether the software meets your personal needs.
Thanks, Jens. Yeah, so feel free to ask questions there in the Q&A feature. If anyone has a question, please go right ahead. So I'll move on to my second example here. So I'll just go back to our home, and I won't save that. So I'll reset everything. So for our next example, we'll design a refrigerated truck to transport palletized freight in the New York tri-state area. So I'll set up those regulations as I did before, go into the settings wheel, go to regulations applied. I'll clear the ones that are initially there. I'll go for New Jersey, interstate roads, New York, interstate, and Connecticut, interstate. So for our favorite measurements here, give that a second. For our favorite measurements here, we won't need our, where is it? The tongue weight as a percentage of trailer weight, because we won't have a trailer in this build. I'll keep the gross weight on vehicle front. I'll have a look at the static rollover angle of this, of the vehicle. I'll also look for the body plus payload on the front and body plus payload on the rear. And I won't have any pin dimensions on this build. So I'll save all those. And now, as I said, I'll go for a Kenworth T370. 6x4. I'll go for this first one here. Okay, so I'm going to add, so I want a refrigerated body on the back of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a box body on here, a box template. As I mentioned earlier, the templates are fully flexible. You can edit the weights and dimensions of them. I'll drag it a little bit back. Sorry, it's a little bit too far. Maybe about 3 inches back again. It's up. 2 inches loop. Okay, so since I need this for palletized freight, I'll need to adjust the width of this. So I'll just change to my top view. I'll click it again, and I'll go into the drawing of it and go to width, and I'll change from 96 to 102 inches. And you can see the drawing is updated there on the fly. And I'll go back to my side view again, and I'll add my refrigeration unit onto this. So I'll go back to add equipment and refrigeration unit. I'll add a Thermo King. Let's see, Thermo King T600. Okay, so we can see there that the unit will interfere with the cab. So we need to increase the height of the body to address this. I'll click the body height dimension over here, and I'll just say increase it to 115. Okay, so now we see that our flag, the app has flagged an issue with the overall height. So I'll have to reduce this little bit by bit just to see when I get legal. For those who know the regulations in the tri-state area, there is a 13.5 foot limit, which we need to comply with. So I'll just drag it down by 1 and 1, yeah, so 2 inches down, and we're now legal again. So to complete this build, this configuration, I'll add a lift gate as well here. So I'll go back to add equipment, lift gate, and I'll go for an NTO 3CL 22C. So I'll go for an NTO lift gate and add that on. So now that we have our vehicle configured, let's add the payload. So this vehicle would be used for palletized freight, as I mentioned. So I'll select a standard GMA pallet. So if we go back to payload here on the left-hand side, detailed payload again, GMA pallet. Okay, so I'll change the weights of these pallets as well. So it is currently, I click on it and go to weight. It's currently 2,000 pounds. I'll bring them down to 1,850 pounds. Okay, so what I can do here is I can switch to top view. I can select this pallet and I can duplicate them. So they'll go down. I'll just move that so you can see a little bit better. So I'm duplicating these down. Now, all these pallets don't have to be the same weights. You can select each one you want individually and change the specifications of them. But for this example, I'll just be doing the same weight. So for this one, I'll just drag the other side. I'll try and leave a little bit of room in between the pallets just to compensate for airflow. Okay, and I grab that one again and I'll drag it down. Or I'll copy them, sorry. Okay, you can already see that we're going to be overloaded here. Okay, so I'll go back to my side view. Okay, so now that we've added our pallets, you can see that the app has flagged an overload on the rear axle under regulatory compliance. So if we drill down into that, we can see that we are now illegal in New Jersey and illegal in New York, but we are legal in Connecticut. So we would have to offload some pallets before crossing the state line. So let's offload those last two. So we'll go back to that top view again. I'll select that one, number 7, and remove it. And I'll go for number 13, say, and remove that one. Okay, now that I've done that, we can see that we are not legal now in Connecticut, but we are legal in New Jersey and New York. So there's a little bit of logistics to work out there in terms of offloading pallets. But if we wanted to make this legal again, we can see our utilization on that front axle is 106%. So if I grab these pallets and drag them towards the rear axle, we might just be able to make it legal again. So you see it's gone down to 104 on the front axle, that utilization score, 104%. Drag another one back. Let's drag another one back. And now you can see that we've gone under the 100% mark, and now we are legal in all those states. So we can also keep an eye on the static rollover angle that we have marked here, so 28.3 degrees. Static rollover angle is the angle at which the vehicle will fall over if tilted sideways, assuming a stiff suspension. Okay, so I'll just go back to my side view there. So if we're okay with all this, we can go ahead again to the generator report. And this will give a nice overview where to place the pallets for the multi-drop route. So I'll just show you here. So it'll show you where to, it'll make life a little bit easier for the driver. It'll show you where exactly to put them. And as I mentioned before, you've got all your notes and warnings and different information on your PDF report in a nice summary. Okay, that's example 2. Jens, I'll just go back to you and see if there's any questions on that one.
No questions specifically on that example, but feel free, if anyone has any questions, to reach out in the Q&A section there.
Yeah, please. Yeah, of course. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the Q&A. So I'll go to my last example here. I'll just go back to the home again. I'll reset everything. So this time we're designing a tanker to serve the greater Chicago area. So let's set up the regulations again. As I did before, we'll go to regulations applied, clear those. I'll go for Illinois state and interstate roads. For favorite measurements, I'll clear those, and I'll go for the gross weight of vehicle front as a percentage, and I'll go for the vertical center of gravity of the vehicle overall. And I'll also pin these here as well, the same ones. And I'll put them, so gross weight on the vehicle front, sorry, as a percentage I'm looking for. And I'll put those between, say, 20% and 100%. So as I say, if it goes outside those zones, it'll be flagged. And we'll go for the vertical center of gravity of the vehicle overall. And sorry. And we'll keep that between, say, 0 and 70. Sorry, 1 second. So the gross weight on the vehicle front as a percentage between 20% and 100%. And down here, we'll go for the vertical center of gravity of the vehicle overall, which will be between 0 and 70 inches. Okay, so I'll save those again. Okay, so I'll go for the same Kenworth again. So Kenworth T370, 6x4, and that first one there. So since we're putting a tanker body on this, we're just going to have to make some adjustments with the wheelbase. So I'm just going to reduce this wheelbase down to from 252 to 230. And our after frame here also needs to be reduced, so I'll change that from 92 to 47. And also we need to double check the impact of the chassis reduction on the weights and axles of the dealer, but I'll estimate those for this exercise. So our chassis weight here, 8,100 I'll go for, and on a rear axle, I'll go for 6,600. Okay. Okay, so let's add the tanker body here. So I'll go again to body on the left-hand side, go to tanker template. And again, I'll just drag this a little bit back, maybe 3 inches. Oh, it's fine. Okay, so we're going to have to add as well pump and metering equipment. So we can do this by adding a template. So if I go to my add equipment and go to other, I can add a template here that will be completely flexible. So if I had a DXF drawing of my equipment, I could have imported that to make the drawing look a bit more realistic, but templates will still give you perfectly accurate results if you populate the data correctly. So I'll go to my dimensions here, and for my height, I'll throw in 30 inches, my width, 30 again, and let's say the weight, 2,000 pounds. And we're going to position it just under the cab. So from the back of the cab, we'll go minus 34 inches. We'll minus 34 on the chassis as well. Okay, so there you go. And there's our, it also appears there in our weights table. So now that we've configured the vehicle, let's take a look at the maximum achievable payload that the app has calculated for us. So we can see here it's 27,500. So this assumes that the tanker has a single compartment for now, but we'll add some compartments later in the example. So we can see that the limiting factor here is the rear axle at 100%. And if we drill down on the permissible, we can see well, we can see it's taken the lesser of the bridge or the regulation and the manufacturer's rating. So depending on where you are operating the vehicle, you could get more out of the rear axle, but in our case, we're limited to 34,000. So our payload is going to be 27,500 for this build. So let's just, as an exercise or as an example here, we'll tweak the center of gravity of the load to see what effect that has on our payload. So by clicking on the payload here and adjust the horizontal center of gravity, say if I reduce that by 5, you can see there it's changed, it's reduced our payload there to 24,000, where it was 27,000. I'll just move that back. So let's make this example a bit more realistic and start adding a few components to our tanker. So what we can do here is we can go to our add payload, detailed payload, and we can go for a generic payload template. And so I'll click into that template and I'll just adjust the dimensions like I did before. So I'll give it a height of 72, or sorry, length of 72, a height of 60, and a width of 96. So I can call this one will be a diesel, and I'll just give it tank number 1. And here we can adjust our weight, or in this case, our volume. So we can specify it as volume, and we'll want our quantity to be about 1,300 liters. And our density of gasoline will estimate roughly at 7 pounds per gallon. Sorry, not liters, it's gallons actually, that's the unit we're using here. So what I can do here again is I'll just pull that back so you can see the drawing a bit clearer. So we can see it's there on our drawing, and if I press our copy here, it'll duplicate it and duplicate it again. So we want our first one and last one to be diesel. So I've select our last one here. I'll click into it and I'll just call it diesel number 3, tank 3. And our center one here, we're actually going to make gasoline. So I'll change this one to gasoline and tank number 2. So gasoline here is going to have a different density. So if I go to our weight and change our density down to 6, you can see here that because it's a density of 6, our weight is 7,800. But if we go back to our diesel and our weights, that the density of 7 and the same quantity is 9,100. So we'll just increase our quantity here to 1,500. So we try and get those weights a little more even. So now we're at 9,000 weight for that gasoline compartment. So an issue to consider here now is, as in the previous scenario, is ensuring that the vehicle remains legal as you offload at various drop points. So if I was to get this last tank here and take that quantity of 1,300 and remove everything from it, make it 0, okay, we can see there that our manufacturer's limits have flagged an issue and we're overloaded on our front axle. So a way to get around this would be to we'll go back to our weight here, say back to 1,300, so the tank is full again, only to remove half of our diesel from that. So 650, again, we're overloaded on that front axle. But if we go to our first tank here and go to our weight and change our quantity also to 650, so we've taken half out of each tank on the front and the rear. And because we've done that, we're completely legal and the front and rear axles are not overloaded. And there's actually a good distribution of weight there over those axles. Okay, so we should also check the overall center of gravity of the vehicle. Because we did have here in our, not a regulatory compliance, sorry, our organizational standards, we had our vertical center of gravity overall, and we had it set to be 0 to 70 inches. So if I go to my center of gravity view, summary view, we can see here that it's 60. So we're definitely under that 70 inches mark. So lastly, as I showed again there in the previous examples, we can go to our PDF report. And this will tell us how many gallons to pump into each compartment. And again, all of the different facts and figures from your drawing. So you can see there how much to pump into each compartment. And again, notes and warnings. And you can put your company logo here, and for anyone who's not familiar with the PDF reports. Okay, so that is the third example. And Jens, I might just go back to you and see if there's any questions this time.
Yeah, John, there's an interesting question there. If you could just go back to the calculation, the question is actually related to showing detail or basic detail of a lift gate, but I think we can demonstrate the same principle on your toolbox there on the truck. If you just click on that the toolbox and click on the pin in the card. So once you click on the pin, okay, hold on. So if you just close that, okay, it's just, you know, okay, that's not exactly what I expected, but with I suspect that's because this is a template, but with other bits of equipment, once you pin them on the menu there, it shows their dimensions. So I'm not sure whether that's what that person was asking for, but maybe we can try something there and just add a crane to this drawing there, or just like this crane now would obviously not be relevant to this build, but it would just maybe explain the principle. So if you look for a Pelfinger or lift, Pelfinger, or just try that one there. And if you clicked on that and pinned that, Oh, you know what's we're in the center of gravity view, John.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you
I'll go back
toggle
to
that
screen
there,
review.
right? Yeah, that's it. Now, if you just shut down that menu there,
Yeah.
you can see that that the dimensions of the crane have been overlaid there. So does that answer your question? But yeah, if I'll assume it does, but if it doesn't, please feel free to ask again.
Okay. Is that all
Um,
good?
There's another question that's come through about a recording. So the answer is yes. There will be a recording of the webinar emailed to all the participants. So yeah, you'll get that probably tomorrow. It'll be emailed out to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, because I'll be going back to my slides now after this after this after this example. So now will be the time if anyone has any questions just to get those last questions in, because we do have a bit of extra time here, I see.
Okay. The question is, can the crane be turned around 180 degrees? So the simple answer is you can't do it within the software, but our support team can upload a left or a right facing crane for you if that's what you need. I suppose just that might be a good opportunity just to explain the role of the support team. They're able to, if there are any missing vehicles, equipment, and the like, you can reach out to the support team via the chat icon at the bottom right, and get in touch with them that way. And that service is included as part of the subscription. Okay, there's a question here about, can you review the basic bridge requirements in the US? I think that's probably a bit out of scope for this webinar, and we only have a few minutes left. I'm just wondering where would be the best place for you to get a basic overview of that. Um, I'll have a look and see if we have a blog post on that. And I see the person that asked the question there is an anonymous attendee. So if you'd like to send me an email, and I'll just reply there. If you can send me an email to jens.hellberg@truckscience.com, I can see if I can arrange that for you. So there's another question: is there any online trial version to review this tool? The answer is yes. If you go to truckscience.com, you'll see a green Get Started button at the top right, and you can sign up for a free trial in a matter of minutes. Then there's another question about, can you compare the difference between the Essentials and Professional versions? What does Professional do that Essentials cannot? And John, maybe if you can just get your browser up there,
Yeah.
and if you went to the pricing page, we can have a quick look at that.
Okay.
Okay, so if you read it from left to right, so on the very left, if you just scroll down a small bit there, John, so we can. Yeah. So if you go to truckscience.com/pricing, the Essentials edition has all the features listed there, and the Professional version then has all the features in Essentials plus the ones under Professional. If Feel free to, we can definitely get in touch there for a more detailed demo for you there. And again, feel free to just send me an email and we can arrange that for you. Okay, that's okay. I see there that the person with the question about the bridge has left the details, so I'll get in touch. I'll get in touch with them directly. Perfect. So there's another question there. will EV models be uploaded soon? So the software already caters for alternative energy sources. John, maybe you can just go to the vehicle menu there, and the energy source tab. So this vehicle is obviously diesel, but you can toggle that and change the energy source. But I suspect your question is more around when the specs will be uploaded. So that's they work exactly the same as any other vehicle spec. If there's a spec that you're missing, feel free to reach out to the support team and request that spec. And if that spec is available in the public domain, we can add that for you. So send us your requirements, and we can see what we can do. Okay, specifically the Ford Lightning. I'll need to check in on that. I mean, if you can send through a spec, and John, maybe you can briefly demonstrate the vehicle request feature there. If you click on the home icon,
Yeah.
and yeah, just at the top there, you'll see a request a vehicle link. So if you specify the make and model that you're after and any other details, that's the direct line to our support team, or rather our data team, and they can follow that up for you and get in touch with you. Let's see here now. There's another question. Does the equipment you can add also include smaller equipment such as visors, welders, etc.? So the answer to that is yes, it does. You can, John mentioned there that you can actually upload your own DXF drawings of any equipment. So if you have a DXF drawing of that piece of equipment, no matter how big or small it is, you can upload that and save it in your personal library. So yeah, the answer is yes. And the next question is, are you getting the vehicle specs directly from the OEMs? And the answer to that is yes, we are. It depends from OEM to OEM. With certain OEMs, we'd have a more direct line than with others, but certainly what's available on the bodybuilder portal would be available to us also. Okay, there was a good run of questions there. Anyone else with questions before we wrap up? I think probably, John, we nearly out of time there. So
Yeah.
maybe if we move on, and if there are any other questions after the fact, feel free to reach out either via the chat or indeed by directly emailing me.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so to sum up, here are a few of the topics to consider when optimizing payload. As we saw in the examples, the jurisdiction that you operate in is a major factor. The choice of chassis is obviously fundamental. The modifications you make to the chassis, be that the wheelbase afterframe modifications or adding axles, are also very important. Adapting your body design to the payload you're carrying is crucial, so experimenting with materials, weights, and dimensions. Adding a trailer can increase payload significantly if it suits your operation. And finally, positioning the various components in different positions to come up with optimal, you can come up with optimal placement. So if you'd like to try the Axle Weight Calculator app yourself, you can visit truckscience.com to register for a fully functional 7-day free trial. Subscriptions start from $50 per month with no lock-in. NTA members qualify for an extended trial of 30 days and a $100 discount on annual subscriptions. So I'll end this webinar shortly, but before you go, please rate the webinar and leave any comments, questions you'd like to share with us. If you'd like to set up a personalized demo, as Jens mentioned there, just leave your contact details in the comments and we'll gladly set that up for you. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to your feedback. Goodbye.